working on a 24 by 36 stretched cotton canvas. This is actually a watercolor canvas, which I think was probably the first time I've ever used a watercolor canvas. And I really enjoyed them. They have a really small grain to them, or texture, so it was nice and smooth. Just laying in my background now. Using little Indian yellow ochre for the sky, keeping it kind of a pale pumpkin color yellow, I suppose. And now just kind of throwing in some basic mountain formations here, using dioxazine purple, using some of my sienna, and just making some really basic shapes here in the kind of creating some crevices. I'm using my airbrush as well, just to kind of soften some things and create a little bit of distance here, a little bit of mist. Now coming back to that same brown and purple mixture that I created, and just kind of darkened a little bit more, add a little bit more of those colors to create the tree line here, and just to kind of create the illusion that we've got some evergreen trees way far back here in the distance. So just get this kind of worked in really quickly here. We can kind of fast forward a little bit more, but as I was painting this, I wasn't 100% certain about my foreground. I had a basic idea about the foreground, but some of this is certainly going to get covered up, and I knew that would happen, but it's better just to go ahead and paint it all in, because you don't always know exactly sometimes what direction or inspiration you're going to get moving into that. So our light source is certainly going to be coming sort of from the left center of the painting, so I had to keep that in mind as I progress through this painting. So working on a large surface like this can be fun, but also a little bit challenging. But it's always a good thing to do this. Now this is a commission painting, so I had a lot of leeway with this commission. I had a few basic elements that I had to work into that, which I'll be painting in here briefly, but right now I'm just sort of trying to figure out the basic landscape and starting to bring in these trees. Obviously, as I move closer to the foreground, my colors have to get a little warmer and a little bit bolder, just to continue that illusion. So as we throw in kind of the basic trunks and branches here, kind of figure out where we want those to live. A lot of this is going to get covered with all of the foliage, but some of it's going to show through as well, so need to make sure that we get that all painted in here. My idea here was that I would add a sun glow right behind this large tree here, and so I wanted to first kind of bring in some lighter leaf formations with the idea in mind that it's going to be having the sun right behind it with some of the light bursting through the canopy. So I'm using again a lot of my ochres and Indian yellows to create that nice golden color. And now I'm just dappling on with my tree and texture brush here this kind of some darker color to create a little bit of depth into the branches. And this is just a nice way of creating that illusion right away. I'm using purple and sap green for that dark color. So that'll give a nice illusion that we've got a pretty full canopy to begin with, and then we can start adding the individual leafing. So I'm sort of opening the canopy now, putting in some holes that the light from the sun's going to burn through. And now I'm coming back with my sap green and a little bit of ultramarine blue to create this kind of darker, kind of a mid-tone color for my leafing. And I've also mixed together a little yellow, a little phthalo red, and some orange, and a little bit of titanium white to create a nice gold color as well. So I'm coming back with my airbrush just to sort of spray on a little bit of a halo around those color, or those openings in the canopy, so as if light is kind of bursting through. And now I'm coming back and just redefining some of my leaves so that I have a nice sort of a silhouette surrounded by a halo of light to continue to create that illusion that the sun is kind of burning right through that canopy. Now as I move further back into the darker portion of the canopy where it's more shadowed, I'm keeping my leafing a lot darker with more of the purples, the sap greens, and the ultramarine blue. So keep that nice and dark, but still thinking about pattern and formation, clumping various groupings of leaves together, and some of those stems and twigs. So I started by kind of creating a little bit of some color in the trunk here. I'll go back and change this up a little bit later on to add a little bit more texture into this, but go on and start to bring in the other tree now, and this is also a prominent tree that will be capturing a lot of the sunlight coming through off from the left, and just really following the same basic pattern here. Stipple on those dark leaves, and then I can go ahead and bring in the individual leaves, and I use a small brush for this. It does take time, but I get a lot of control this way over just dabbing on with a large brush to create several leaves. I just feel like I can really kind of form the structure and the shape of these leaves a lot better with a smaller brush, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience to do that. But again, you will have a lot more control over exactly how that brush stroke appears on the canvas. So start to come and bring back in those gold leafing colors again, just to give that illusion of where the light is striking this canopy. This is going to be a rather muted painting, so you've got to keep that in mind as well. It's a little bit darker. So I'm coming back here and just stippling on a little bit of texture and shape on this tree. Get those colors all worked in, and then I'll come back later with my acrylic pen, which is an acrylic paint pen of black that I can really form the bark a lot better, and I'll be showing that here in just a moment. So first you just want to get that all kind of figured out with your tree and texture brush, and this is where I'm coming back and adding that bark with the pen. I have a lot more control that way. It can certainly be done with a rigger brush, but it just takes a little more time. So this is where I'm coming back and just changing up my trunks and adding that dappled effect, and get that texture in there. It kind of gives it more of a raw bark sort of look to it, that I can then go back with my pen and draw in those individual shapes in the bark. And I really wanted to give a lot of just a lot of character to these trees. So it was definitely fun. But these pens are pretty neat, and I recently discovered them. Honestly, I found them in a craft section at a Walmart. So really cool brushes. Now I'm painting in my fence line here. It'll be kind of silhouetted, but this large portion of the fence in the back is actually, it was part of the commission. It was requested that I paint in a cattle curtain, which I'm not in the farming agriculture community, but I guess a cattle curtain is a way that the cattle can receive kind of a pesticide application. It helps to protect them from bugs. So that was something unique that was requested. This old shack is actually another part of the commission that was unique and requested by the client. Sent me a photo of their old family house on their land, and this house is in disrepair and it's falling in and it's condemned pretty much. It's in ruin, but it was really a neat thing to paint in because just how aged it was and how much character it had. So it was certainly a fun thing to work on. But I'll go through and use that texture brush again. I want to create a lot of texture in the shingles here that are really old and kind of falling in. A lot of the shingles are missing, and there's holes in the roof. And again, using that acrylic pen is really nice to add all of that detail on all of the individual shingles, which could have taken an enormous amount of time with using a rigger brush or a smaller brush. So it can be done, but it just takes a lot longer, and so I recommend using those if you have a chance. But continuing here, just laying in the dark, I'm using Midnight Black for that, and then just coming over with some blues and browns to create that nice gray color. So get in the windows, bring in our doorway. I wanted to create this sort of sun dappled effect as well, that there's some shadow from the trees and a little bit of sunlight burning through the canopy on there as well. So just had a lot of interesting character, and I really like that about this structure. But it was very important. It's part of this client's childhood, so we can get that brought in. Okay, we can start kind of working on the foreground here. I'm bringing in. I'm really using just oxazine purple and some burnt sienna to create that nice kind of dirt effect. I like to use a lot of purples in my shadows. It's a natural shadow color that I feel like works out really nicely. And then around that, just to kind of start bringing in some basic grasses and give that illusion that we've got some shadow cast from the trees and some of the sunlight kind of filtering through to the ground here, and create some contrast, which it's always important. I always feel like what really is intriguing about a lot of paintings is a lot of contrast, and also just painting in a lot of light seems to be, in my opinion, what really makes a painting look nice. So just work this in here, and now I'm using my rigger brush to kind of bring in some individual blades of grass. And again, this will take some time, but it's certainly worth the effort in doing that. Now this truck is again another feature that needed to be added that was requested by the client. And it was an old, rusted out pickup truck. So I wanted to create that rust effect, kind of create some of that patina that you see on some of these old vehicles, and using this tree and texture brush I felt like really helped to create rusty patina look. It was kind of a bluish colored truck with kind of the orange patina. So I'm using, for my blue, ultramarine blue, I brought in a little bit of some of my browns and a little bit of purples. And then for the rusty colors, just using orange and sienna, a little bit of white, and then kind of dapple that on. I'm working kind of in sections here so that I can kind of follow the basic contour and lines that I've already laid out with my chalk pencil. And I just feel like that's kind of the easiest way to work on something like this with this much detail. It is an important feature to the painting. It's up in the forefront, so helped me a lot to really use some of these smaller brushes and create that finer detail and have a little bit of that control as we lay this in. And that again is my acrylic paint pen, which also can come in handy with a lot of these finer, thinner lines as well. I used to use other types of pens. I've tried some various things. Felt tip pens seem like they work very well for this as well. I would caution, if you use felt tip though, that you spray your painting before you apply any sort of isolation coats or any sort of varnishes, because those pens, they can wipe away pretty easily. So if you just maybe spray your canvas with some sort of a fixer, or spray it with maybe a varnish spray of some sort, that would help to kind of set that in. But with these acrylic paint pens, that you don't have that concern, because it is acrylic paint. And I'm laying all this in right now in acrylic. I'll go back later and add my oil, which is pretty customary for me. So we get all this kind of figured out here, and then once we get that laid in, we can start to lay the grasses around it and really kind of seat this pickup down into the painting, and that way it doesn't look like it's kind of floating on top of anything. I'm coming back now, and I'm adding some more blades of grass in the shadowed region. I wanted to kind of use my blue and a little bit of green and a little bit of more white, just to kind of lighten it up a little more, so that I can really show those individual blades kind of peeking out. Now I can work kind of this dirt road. We're going to have this dirt road running here right in front of the house along a fence line, and so I'm going back and using my dioxazine purple and my sienna, and then slowly lightening it up with some of those gold colors, going back into the yellow ochre and some of the orange and yellows, to create some of that highlight. And I can kind of build the grass around it. That way you kind of see some patches there among the grass, as if this is just an old family property. It's not really taken care of much anymore. It's kind of fallen into disrepair. Kind of adding some shadows here at the base of the grass line, and kind of give some nice separation between the soil and the grass. Adding these little individual blades of grass can certainly take some time. Coming back with my toothbrush here, and I'm just kind of sprinkling on a little bit of texture, as if we had pebbles and rocks that were kind of strewn throughout the dirt path here. And then I'm bringing in some tire tracks, as if vehicles have kind of moved in and out of this area here and through the little dirt road. And then just kind of highlighting here a little bit more, creating more of that contrast. kind of first kind of establish getting all this worked in. I can bring in the shadows from the posts now. There's just a little bit. You want to keep in mind the direction of the sun and where that light source is coming from, so that you can kind of make sure that you're casting those shadows appropriately. I can start to bring a little bit more light and texture to these posts now. I'm using my white acrylic paint brush now to bring in the fence, which is a lot easier that way for me. And yeah, I was really excited to find those. They work out very nicely, and I've used them a lot here lately. It's just kind of refining the ground here a little bit more, and just kind of working in layers is really all you can do. I thought it'd be a nice touch just to add a mailbox. Really, beyond the cattle curtain and the home and the pickup, I had a lot of leeway to kind of do what I wanted to do here. So just kind of ad-libbing here and adding things that I think would be kind of interesting and make some sense. So I'm just about complete with adding in my acrylic paint now, so I'll be moving pretty soon to my oils, but I thought it'd be interesting. I kind of thought it'd be fun to add maybe an old tire swing. I thought it would just kind of fill that gap there pretty nicely and be sort of kind of something that the eye could be drawn to, a little bit unique. So here we'll be adding our oil paint now, and when I add my oils, this is really an opportunity to add texture. I add this very thickly, and I can also get a lot nicer, more vibrant color. There's a lot of great pigment in oil paint over acrylic paint that as you use acrylics, they tend to dull as they dry, because as the water evaporates out of them, they darken a few shades, and I think that works in some regards, but sometimes it can work against you as well. So it's nice to come back with oils and really apply this thick. So you can even see in the trees how thick I'm adding this. It really stands off the canvas and creates some better individual leafing. It really kind of causes these trees to come alive and almost look real. So I just find that you could just get a lot more into your painting, build a lot more interest in adding some of that thicker paint now, and it gives it more of that sort of art quality to it, kind of painterly quality to the painting. I can come back and really start adding some more bold colors here into my grasses, add some more bold colors here to the building, and just kind of go in and out of the painting and through the painting and find various areas where it would make sense to add some more texture and add some more vibrancy. And I thought it would also be a good idea to do that in the trunks, add some thick paint there and really kind of lend to that rugged bark appearance. And I'm just trying to achieve, again, that tremendous amount of contrast between my shadow and my lights, sun glow areas. Thanks for watching.